From the Weather Channel, this is First Outlook.
Good morning, I'm Nick Walker.
And I'm Kim Perez. Thanks for joining us, everyone. It's 5 o'clock here in Norfolk, and it's 4 o'clock in Austin.
Hurricane Rita is now a Category 3 and has triggered mandatory evacuations for parts of the Houston-Galveston area.
And the very latest here, winds 120 miles per hour, as Nick mentioned, a Category 3 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale. It is moving west at 14 miles per hour. Right now, the center is 175 miles west of Key West, Florida, which, by the way, Key West still under tropical storm warnings.
And leaving a lot of water behind, too. You know, life is slowly returning to normal in South Florida after Rita. Residents of the Florida Keys can start to return home today. Now, on Friday, so can visitors. Tomorrow, Monroe County government offices will reopen. Miami-Dade County schools will be back in session today. And tomorrow, schools in the Florida Keys will reopen.
And Jed Carfagna joins us now to talk about some travel conditions.
And all that water, still a lot of big puddles from Rita left behind.
And we'll update the roads. It looks like everything is moving pretty well in South Florida and down through the Keys, but we'll update that coming up. And we want to take a look at travel conditions because now the focus is going to be on travel around the Houston and Galveston area. So right now the roads are dry. It's been hot. It's been steamy. That's a picture of the radar. We're going to show you traffic, and we'll continue to update this here as we go through the morning. Traffic this morning. Steady stream of traffic here moving out of Galveston. As we take you to the streets of Key West, where yesterday, there was an unofficial wind gust of 102 miles per hour. You can see the power of water. That car is just floating along. It looks like it turned around and went the other way, which is always the smart thing to do when you come across a road covered with water. We'll update conditions there as well as the rest of the country travel-wise, and that's coming up in about 10 minutes. Now, while it was not as bad as it could have been, there were some close calls in Florida.
I'll tell you, Jen, this is not what you should do. Oh, my gosh. Uh-oh. See what can happen? That's why you shouldn't be out. One of the reasons you shouldn't be out there in that water. A pair in Key West, well, they couldn't resist getting a first-hand look at and taste of the big waves that was kicked up by Rita. Avoid even the chance of getting swept away. Keep your distance from the storm's fury. Very dangerous, folks. I laugh, but seriously, that is not the thing to do. And as a hurricane at the time, though. Tropical storm, now hurricane, Category 3, moving westward, moving away from the Keys. We should start to see conditions improving here, but through the day today, we will continue to see the chance of some of those rain bands coming through. Again, Doppler estimates in some areas picked up 6 inches in the northern Keys. You can see some of those bands actually just south of Miami now. So we will see still the threat of maybe a ½ inch to a couple of inches of rain in some localized areas, and the winds should start to decrease here later on today. Now, of course, the big story now is that heading through the Gulf, and it's going to intensify. It will continue to intensify. It'll go through fluctuations, of course, but as it heads towards Texas, we may be dealing with a major hurricane at landfall. So, again, folks are doing the right thing. We're already starting to prepare, and that's what you need to do towards the weekend, especially. And this thing actually will bring a lot of heavy rain into central Texas, too. So it looks like over the weekend, Dallas may be dealing with some of it, as well as the piney woods of Texas.
Category 4 hurricane, and of course on the Saffir-Simpson scale, Category 1 is the weakest hurricane, Category 5 is the strongest. This was a Category 4. We saw a surge of 22 feet with this hurricane, and it made landfall just south of here in Port Lavaca. Now, hurricanes cause significant damage. That is absolutely true, but tropical storms can cause a lot of damage as well. Let's talk about Claudette, which made landfall July of 1979. Now, this brought significant rainfall to Texas. Alvin, Texas, believe it or not, set a 24-hour rainfall record for the lower 48, all the lower 48, of 43 inches within 24 hours. So that's pretty significant. And what we're worried about here is a hurricane striking just to our south, Mark and Betty, because east of me is the Gulf of Mexico, and we'll get that east wind, which means that's going to push all the water ashore, like we saw in Katrina with that significant surge, and that could cause substantial damage.
Stephanie, we know it's going to be bad. How serious are people taking the storm?
I have to tell you that people really are taking this storm seriously. Fortunately, they're gassing up. People are heeding the evacuations. Many people we spoke to said, I've been here, I'm not staying here. I'm getting out of here. So that's the good news. Unfortunately, Betty and Mark, the temperatures today, we are going to be near records, if not breaking records, in the mid to upper 90s. We're typically in the mid to upper 80s, so we are going to be well above average, and that is going to cause a lot of exhaustion, heat exhaustion. People need to make sure they prepare for that as well.
All right, Stephanie, thanks a lot for that report. And, you know, and as the sun comes up in the Florida Keys this morning, the damage not quite as bad as feared.
Earlier this morning, Diane Fernandez had this look at conditions in Marathon, Florida in the Central Keys.
The remnants of Hurricane Rita have still been battering the Florida Keys for most of the morning with plenty of strong rain. But in the last half hour, the sun has finally peeked out through the clouds, shedding light on what Rita left behind. And for the most part, the news is very good. The waters of the Atlantic and Gulf have receded. In this case, right here, yesterday at the height of the storm and also at the height of high tide, the water reached this concrete barrier. Right now, though, it's obviously receded. This boat was sunk in the process yesterday, and it again is floating this morning. So for the most part, the widespread flooding that was feared simply did not happen. We did have it in some pockets, but for the most part, the Florida Keys are drying out this morning. Governor Jeb Bush is expected at 3 p.m. in this area to tour the area, but mostly what he will see is very good news. In Marathon, Diane Fernandez for the Weather Channel.
All right, thanks, Diane. And, you know, Florida can start to recover, but in Texas, it's time to prepare.
Enforcement officials